Hello, 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 hello. Welcome. Happy Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday, or Friday, or maybe it's Sunday morning. I don't know. Maybe you just watch these posts. Maybe you're catching it as you're scrolling in the middle of the night because you can't sleep. And part of why you can't sleep is because you're scrolling through feeds all night long. Regardless, I'm happy you're here. Glad to see you or to be seen. It's Chris. I'm here at second glass in the cellar for Cellar Chats. Weekly wine flights here. This week we are celebrating the end of what is International Women's Month, but we all know that is every month because females really run the world. Well, I wish they did because it probably would run a little more smoothly than it does. But real decisions are made by females, so let's champion them every day, not just for a month or a day. Nonetheless, we're going to highlight some fun ones, some female winemakers, and we're doing Rosé edition because it's looking beautiful this week. While it's going to rain, I think, for a couple of days, it's going to be in the mid-70s, sunny, and a gorgeous weekend. Perfect for drinking Rosé. So let's get into it. Please forgive me for the slow connection. If it's spotty, I don't know what to tell you. It just does it every time. So, all right, we're kicking it off with bubbles because why not? That's the reason every time. It'll always be the reason. Why are we drinking bubbles? Why wouldn't we drink bubbles? That's the real question. Ultraviolet sparkling rosé from California, 100% Pinot Noir. We'll get into that in a minute. We're going to follow it up with a little more California. This is Curran down in Santa Barbara. And then we're going to finish with a U.S. born, now living in France, living her best life in Beaujolais with her lovely husband, with Michelle Smith, with their Smith Chapelle, also Domaine Chapelle. I'll talk a little more about that when we get there. So, bubbles all day, every day, any day. Yeah, because. So, Ultraviolet, this was founded by Samantha Sheehan. Lovely, lovely human, hard worker, great mom, great wife. I mean, she's just an all-around badass, lovely person. She started with Cellars, which is kind of her flagship primary winery. That's where she really dives into Burgundy varietals. That's really where she dove into making champagne method sparkling wines. And then she started Ultraviolet, which, I mean, how cool is that? I don't know. I really like cork cages. Don't ask me why. I just find them fascinating. So she started Ultraviolet several years later as a way to sort of like showcase and bring a more affordable, everyday drinking wine. I believe she started with the Cabernet, which at one point was all labeled Napa. It's now just labeled as North Coast. Comes from two different areas. A chunk of it still comes from Napa, but to keep it affordable, it doesn't all come from Napa. And then she started making a sparkling wine because she really became known for those at her Cellars. And this is actually made from all Pinot Noir from the Manchester Ridge Vineyard, which is one of her primary sources for her Cellars wines, and done in the Charmat or Marinotti method, so like Prosecco. It's a screaming value. It's delicious. It's affordable. You want to drink it every day. It's nice and dry. It's got good fruit to it. Kind of strawberry, raspberry, a little bit of citrus going on. Wow, that is so good. Man, it's almost like lemon tart meets raspberries and strawberries all at the same time. Well, sitting outside, basking in the sun, when it's just warm enough that it's comfortable to be like in a t-shirt and outside, but not so warm that you're sweating. That's what you feel. That's the whole vibe in this wine. I don't know what else to say. It's delicious. Come taste it. Come grab a bottle. Drink 2 bottles. Take a bottle home. Drink 1 here. Do whatever you want. Just have some of this wine. It's great. Well done, Samantha, as always. Okay. Moving down to Santa Barbara, this is Curran, which is made by Chris Curran. That is a girl, spelled K-R-I-S. I don't know if that is like the distinct spelling for like female as a Chris, but regardless, that's how her name is spelled. Doesn't really matter. Kind of made a name for herself. She worked at if I remember correctly, Sea Smoke Cellars for a while as the winemaker. Then she jumped over and worked for the Foldy Group for a while, making wines at Lincourt and a handful of other places. And then founded her own label, really focused on Grenache Blanc, and then has expanded, does some other like Spanish grape varieties, but a pretty big focus on Grenache in Santa Barbara. And this is her Grenache Rosé, Grenache, I think, Grenache Gris. It was Grenache Gris on the front, Grenache Rosé on the back. Both the same thing. I always found this wine just to be vibrant and mineral driven. Like it is just classic, you know, it's hot out. I want something refreshing. This does the jam. Wow. Yeah. Straight up, full, crispy, refreshing minerals. Almost like a saline, salty character to it. Beautiful color, just that delicate kind of onion skin, sort of like really like orange, almost like, I don't know if I call it trout color, but you know, it's in that hue. Maybe not quite that dark, but anyways, regardless, it's a gorgeous color. Yes. You know what else I like about this? I'd forgotten because I've not had it in a while. It's deceptively juicy. Like, it's a pale color. The nose is like all minerals. The fruit doesn't really come out so much on the nose for me. But then when you put it across the palate, there's this like juicy peach, almost like apricot thing going on that is really good and kind of mouth-watering and brings you back for more. I think I'm going to put a straw in it and take it home. And you should too, because again, it's beautiful. Although they're not open tonight, so don't come here tonight because it's Tuesday. Come tomorrow night and grab a bottle and put a straw in it. No one's going to judge you. I won't judge you. I'll be right there with you. Again, that is Curran 2022 Grenache Gris. Again, remember, most people will tell you that you have to have rosés, the freshest versions possible. It's okay to have rosé with a little bottle age on it. The best ones are even better with some bottle age. Case in point. Whew, sorry about that. Got a phone call in the middle of this. Smith Chappelle. So, really cool estate. I actually had the great fortune of visiting them while I was in France about a month ago. And they are really as lovely as I ever could have imagined, and then some. So they have their primary label, which is called Domaine Chappelle, which is their Beaujolais label. And then they started after, I can't remember what the vintage was, but there was a handful of years ago, there was a really bad vintage all across Beaujolais, and really all across most of France. And a lot of producers basically got licenses to make, to basically be, what's the word I'm looking for? Negociants. So they could purchase fruit and make basically non-estate wines. And they've kind of, a lot of them have kept that because as climate change or climate crisis, depending on who you're talking to, it really is a crisis, but you know, we'll stick with the most well-known nomenclature. Is that the word? I pretend to be smart. I'm really not. The most well-known term for it, climate change. They're getting intense hailstorms and they're getting crazy weather. So every year is not guaranteed to have fruit. So to have the right to be able to purchase fruit from good sources to be able to make wine and continue to feed themselves and pay themselves a living is important. So this happened really across the globe, but France was hit particularly hard. So they started a negotiant project called Smith Chappelle. Now, Michelle Smith and David Chappelle, not Dave Chappelle, the comedian, but another gentleman named David Chappelle. He's a Frenchman. He grew up in Beaujolais. There's a whole, you can look how they met, but they're a married couple. They have beautiful, lovely children. They live in Beaujolais full time. And so they have a fair amount of holdings in Beaujolais that they farm themselves and they make under their Domaine Chappelle. And then they make a couple of negotiants under Smith Chappelle that comes from source fruit. So the Rosé, interestingly, is Syrah, which is grown in Charroux, which is a cru of Beaujolais. And and then they make this lovely rosé. And what I like about it is it's got texture and mouthfeel and body, but it's not a heavy wine. You know, kind of like the Curran, which is deceptive. It's very light colored, but it's got so much happening. It's not just crisp and fresh. There's like a juicy palate feel to this. This looks like it might be bigger and fuller, and some people would be like, oh, it's dark, it must be sweet. It's not. That's not a thing. Just push that out of your mind. I mean, I'm sure it is a thing, but that's not typically the case. Not if you're having wine here. On the nose, it has that Syrah character, a little more blackberry. There's a really lovely herbaceous character that I really love here. But then on the palate, oh my goodness. There's like brightness and complexity and herbs and almost like kind of like grilled berries, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but there's like this kind of like wild berry, like not smoky, but just like this intensified flavor profile that just makes this wine so juicy, so very lovely. Lovely people, lovely winemakers. Yeah, come out, have some plates, support the last week of March, support some really wonderful female winemakers making some lovely rosé. They make a lot of other lovely wines too. And, you know, just be good people. Thanks for tuning in. See y'all next week.